I'm right that he's got sacked within a year, but I think it's for the wrong reasons.
He's achieved a semi-final in the FA Cup and a League Cup final his first season. It's better than Arteta as far as I remember.
Performances haven't been good enough.
And it's something you shouldn't really be saying at a big club like Chelsea.
That Chelsea have sacked a manager when there's probably no justification for it.
Breaking news, Chelsea and Pochettino have parted ways with immediate effect. Now, this is coming as a surprise as Chelsea had title winning form, winning at least the last 5 games and finishing in the European places. So it is a bit of a shock to us all that it's just happened. We're going to discuss why has it happened? Was it the right decision from the Chelsea board? And who will be next as manager of Chelsea? Jordan, I think we've got to start with you. How are you taking the news? And why has it happened? Give me the reasons.
Well, one word with how I'm feeling, just 2 words, absolutely fuming. Bit all over the place, as you can tell. Breaking news right now. I mean, my initial thoughts are just complete and utter shock because we've said, many people have said all season, performances haven't been good enough. Chelsea, we were languishing in 10th for what felt like an eternity. But it doesn't make sense considering what we've seen in the last few months and what we've seen in 2024. Chelsea, look at the table. I don't like these half-season league tables, but they keep going around on socials. And in 2024 so far, we were up there on points with City, Arsenal, Liverpool. So at what point do you look at that and go, yeah, got to get rid of the manager? It's just completely and utterly baffling. And again, I've been critical. Chelsea fans have been critical of the ownership. And this is just another big step back. And all the information we know at the minute is not much, being honest. It's mutual consent. I'm very sure reasons will come out, in the next 24 hours. But it just doesn't make sense to me. If I said it on my TikTok, if this was straight after the Arsenal 5-0 loss, that was a real low point. Maybe it makes sense and we can understand it. Still a bit clueless, but it makes sense. But now, assuming City win the FA Cup final, which is, I don't want to assume, but we're in Europa spots. What is going on? We've got one of the youngest sides in the Prem, shitload of signings, injuries, and we might get Europa League. Been in a final, been in a semi, and now the manager's gone. Absolutely baffling.
Reece, what's your take on Poch being sacked? Yeah, that's effectively what it is. It's a sacking.
Yeah, I am surprised, like I said, because they won 5 of their last 5. Not shocked that Chelsea have sacked a manager when there's probably no justification for it. I mean, they've been doing it for 20 odd years. But I'm not sure what the reason is behind it. Something must have happened. Things have been said in this meeting. The rumours are there's no bad blood between both parties. So there's not been like a fist fight. But it seems like there's been disagreements or something. It's really strange. I think with the American ownership, you'd expect they bring in these coaches to train players, and therefore it takes time. But to do it after a year seems very anti-American style approach. It is a strange sacking. Don't get me wrong. Chelsea fans were moaning 2 months ago why they weren't sacking him. Now they're complaining that they've kept him. So he has had a good season. He leaves with his reputation intact. It could be a mixture of things. Maybe they set out expectations from the start for top 4. Maybe they felt that the injury list was too much because Pochettino probably has to take blame for that injury list with his training methods. And these are heavy investments they've put in, so they're probably upset there. But it is a strange one because I thought with this momentum behind them, they'd go into the new season and get off to a flying start.
Just on that, I mean, the European places, maybe it was pre-agreed, but you've got to look at just common sense and logic. The situation Pochettino's been put in, right? And you make a good point about, a few months ago, everyone wanted him out. So I want to make this clear, particularly for those watching this for the first time. If you don't follow the podcast, I have not once this season said sack Poch. If you go on Twitter, every single big Chelsea account has flip-flapped. All the big ones with quarters of a million, 500,000 followers I've been consistent, so if that's not a reason to actually follow it and you want proper opinions, give us a subscribe right now. But separate to the point, he's come in, as we've seen many times, one of the youngest squads in the Premier League. Yes, we've spent £1 billion, all this, £1 billion bottle jobs. Yeah, brilliant. We've still got one of the youngest squads in the league. And although we've spent the money, annoyingly, we've not spent the money to win this season. I know that sounds stupid, but when you're signing Brazilian wonder kids for 30 plus million, you're not investing to win this season. And maybe that's a mistake, but it's a long-term project. And when you add in all these injuries on top of that, I think we're, again, Newcastle and United might disagree, but we've had the most injuries this season, or the most minutes out from players. So you combine those two factors, inexperience, new signings, constant injuries, and he's ended up getting us 6th in the table, as I said before already, very, very close to winning the Carabao Cup, very unlucky to lose against Man City in the semi-final. Like, what are we watching here? I can't comprehend it. I think he's been in a tough situation, and in the end, he's done all right.
So to be honest, I said at the start of the season I think I said it on the podcast as well, I thought Poch was going to get sacked.
Yeah, he did.
And to be honest, the form that he had produced probably was sackable, but I think you had quite a nice start of games. So I think they kept the faith in him for the season. But now it's sort of like, I'm right that he's got sacked within a year, but I think it's for the wrong reasons. The form completely picked up. You've got ahead of Newcastle, got ahead of United, and you were 3 points off Spurs, who at one point Spurs fans mostly were joking, but talking about a title race. So to come 3 points within them is just it's a bit weird how he's been sacked. However, you've got to look at the press conferences that Poch has had. They have been odd. You don't know really what was going on, because Poch at one point is, like, I'm paraphrasing, but it was, if I'm not here at the end of the year, it's not the end of the world. Which, okay, it's not, but it's still such a weird thing to say, and it's something you shouldn't really be saying at a big club like Chelsea. It's not you're looking at this as a stepping stone to go on to a bigger club. This should be the big club that you're at. Because let's be honest, the clubs that are bigger than Chelsea, are any of them actually going to take Poch? Probably not. So it's such a weird sort of aspect of the way he's dealt with it, sort of in the press conferences, because this isn't just happened now. They haven't gone, oh, the season ended yesterday, should we have a board meeting? Yeah, we're going to sack him. That's just not the way it works. They've been doing this for a few months, probably. The form's turned round, but really, have you had sort of like, I know results have improved, but you've still had a lot of poor performances this season. And there's a lot of ones where you've come out and you've been frustrated, Jord. Like, you've conceded several goals to poor teams. And I know that's more at the start of the season, but I still don't think he's covered himself massively in glory at Chelsea. I don't think he won over the fans, because I was still seeing yesterday outside the grounds them talking about I've seen a few of them go, I still want Poch gone. So it's some of them are now going, why is he being sacked? But some of them were like literally yesterday going, I want him gone. Or sorry, Sunday, I want him gone, kind of thing. So I think he's not won over the Chelsea fans, so it's not fully surprising that he's been sacked.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to whether they listen. And then there was obviously an episode earlier in the season where Bowley was actively on a Chelsea fan Twitter space, and everyone kind of took that as, oh, he cares about the fans' opinion. So maybe, but I personally don't think
you can't be listening to fans. God, if he is listening to fans, he shouldn't be in charge of Chelsea.
Yeah,
because fans you're going to have different opinions. You're going to have people, like you've seen on Twitter accounts and other things, flip-flapping, going out in. Like, you can't listen to fans, and that's not how you should run the club, if that's the case.
Yeah.
But I was also going to say, you were saying like it's a long-term project. However, from the whole deal that's going on, Bowley's only there for 5 years. So for him, he's not actually got a long-term project, because
But
he probably wants a bit more success than what he's actually got time for, and he's bought in a different mindset, if that makes sense. Because
yeah,
if
but
you
that
go in 5 years' time, you're probably ready. You should have your players in peak condition, but he'll be gone. There'll be someone else in charge. So
yeah.
it's whether he's got that mindset as well, going, no, I need some more quicker projects that gets you trophies. But I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one.
I think if that was the case, though, he would have signed and spent a lot of that £1 billion, as we like to quote, on experience, because that we've seen it even at Leverkusen. Alonso, whether it's him or the board, have made a couple of key experience signings, and look at them now on the top of the world. So if you want to win now, we've seen it under Mourinho, we've seen it under other managers, you buy a mix of experience and youth potential. So we've not done that. So I think that's an interesting point, but I don't see it as that. I can't comprehend. I guess, to be fair, like tactically, as you said, he's not perfect. So I don't want to be naive and blinkered and be like, oh, everything under Poch has been great, because it's been a rough season as a Chelsea fan until the last month or so. And there has been performances where you have literally 0% faith after going 1-0 down that we're going to turn it around. So we've got to be fair. Maybe that's why. So maybe they're going back and looking at some of the previous stuff. In some cases, playing players out of positions. In some games, poor tactical subs. So he's not perfect. But I don't think any manager is, and that is what we've got to understand. Who's better? Like that's the question we've got to be asking.
Well, the thing is,
Well,
this is the next sort of, they got rid of Potter because they didn't see progress. They got rid of Tuchel for whatever reason, and this was supposed to be that next step. Okay, we'll bring in someone who has experience, who can help bleed in these young players. Put an arm around them, etc. But they dumped him with a lot of players. He's got to try and find his best formation by giving players all a fair amount of time. And over a 38 game season, that's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I suppose you could say the last 5 wins that they were against teams that didn't really have anything to play for, apart from a good result away to Villa, or that you'd expect Chelsea to beat. But those last 5 games are the teams that Chelsea were not beating originally. So,
Hey guys, very quick one. If you've got this far in the episode, one very small favour we ask, if you could please help us out and hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, and as always, it's absolutely free. This means you won't miss an episode, you'll always be up to date, and of course, it helps us grow the channel. Appreciate your support. Back to the video.
And
we can't
comebacks in there as well.
exactly.
Just
We
jump
can't
in.
get
We
it.
didn't see that.
I think the board have the right to be a little bit frustrated because their argument is it's their money. And like I said, the injury list was bad. And you could say things like, well, Cole Palmer's great, but why have you had to get him dig you out of a hole so many times? I don't know. But I mean, I thought it was quite a sensible and strange appointment in the first place because I didn't really see what he was going to offer differently to Potter. But I would have given him a chance for next season to at least prove his worth. I know, like, you're not going to fall lower than 7th next season, really, with the players they've got. And yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. And I think the board have done a lot of strange things in their time and been criticised for it for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. But this one, they've done it again, and you must think like you're not helping yourselves.
Are they
Failed
going
to
the
get right.
Abramovich approach? The Abramovich approach, sack
Good
one
God.
every 18 months.
Well, sack him in the dressing room then. Sack him after the 5-0 Arsenal loss if you want to be like Abramovich, and drag him out of the club.
Well,
That's
this is
the
it.
time that will do it, and fans will
But
back you.
that could have also been, they could have decided then. They could have decided and gone, we're going to give him to the end of the season, he's going to be gone after that Arsenal defeat. That could have generally been what's happened. You can sack players straight away, managers straight away, but then you've got what? You had 6 or 7 games left, 5 or 6 games left. Maybe you just went, let's just calm everything down. Don't want any speculation going around. Let him continue. We'll bring someone in. They probably should have been planning.
Yeah, it's probably the case they already had their mind made up, right? But But even then, you have to say, like, you stuck with him with all this idea of mine of the project and progress. So what was the point?
Exactly. Yeah,
It's just another manager you have to pay out, but he's going to get a substantial compensation fee, which does come into the FFP rules, doesn't
Yeah.
it, or PSR rules? So that's another manager. I don't know what their summer transfer plans are. They probably don't have much because of what they've got, and he probably had players that they were like, actually, we think we need to sell him, and he probably doesn't want to sell him. So it's a mess they've created themselves. But I think it's harsh. I think it's harsh because he's shown glimpses of it. He's shown that they can compete, and when the team does click, it does work. So what else is he? Really, what else was he expected to do? He's achieved a semi-final in the FA Cup and a League Cup final his first season. It's better than Arteta, as far as I remember. So why does he get the flack for that? It's not his fault the striker issue. It's not his fault that the goalkeeper Sanchez had some absolute stinkers. It's the goalkeeper's fault. It's not his fault that Jackson still got a load of goals, but it's not his fault that Jackson missed the chances.
Yeah.
He's coaching them, and you saw the clip. Like I said, it clicked towards the end. They got better, but that is harsh. It is harsh.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, you look as well at both ends. We saw a bit of consistency against the lower sides towards the end of the season, and you look at the highlights of the season in terms of big games. Spurs, as always, done the double over him. Man City, 3 games, toe to toe with them in every game. Even the FA Cup, as I've already said, didn't deserve to beat us there. So that's the best team in the world, who we've shown on our day we can go toe to toe with. Liverpool, there was a good performance at the start of the season. Arsenal, again, one of those games we should have won. So we're still showing you've got the ceiling when it matters at times. So I just can't understand it. And I think just one more thing before we move on to sort of who could potentially will replace him is when you break it down, was this the intention all along? Like, was it, going back to the original point we said, was it basically the intention to get a manager in and go, oh, if they don't get top 4, we're just going to get rid? Like, a club's that premeditated.
Some are. They would have had targets in mind.
Would have been, yeah, but targets are probably different because you do have to. I think Jordan said it before, like you have to take it in context.
Yeah.
With the injuries they've had, okay, like still with some of the injuries, they probably shouldn't have been doing as bad as what they were at one point. But I don't know. I think with targets, you do loosely have them. It's like this season, Arsenal and Arteta, their target was to win the league. They're not sacking Arteta because he's come second. That's the sort of difference. But I think the other thing that maybe with them, it depends how much they like. I know that they're Americans. You got to remember this. They probably don't know too much about the game in terms of massive hit, and they've gone and seen Villa get 4th. Who, before the start of this season, not a lot of people would have had Villa come in Champions League spots. So like, why have we spent $1 billion and Villa have got ahead of us? It could be things like that. I don't know. I don't know anything about them, but they might just be involved, and it might be that's their sort of mindset. They're like, we should have got that because someone who hasn't spent as much as us has got it. It could be a bit of a backwards mindset, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think moving forward for Chelsea, who are you going to bring in? Because at the moment I'm seeing on Sky Bet, which I think you two will love this, at 15-8 is your 2 favourite manager ever, I think. He's just left Brighton. It's De Zerbi. It's perfect for you both. Jordan, you'd absolutely love it. I've seen a few TikToks of you praising him, of course. And Reese, I think the words are F-U-C-K, De Zerbi every single week. So you'll both be giving him glowing recommendations, surely.
Yeah, I might have to do a U-turn on that suddenly if he's the manager. Yeah, I look, De Zerbi, as me and Reese have said a lot of the season, linked with every single major job. Absolutely no justification for it at all, other than vibes and a bit of nice football. Well, where did Brighton end up? Well, he's had a young squad, right? He got a young squad with European football, failed miserably at both, and had some injuries. Poch had worse, also had a younger squad, also had injuries. You know, like, it's completely ridiculous to go and get De Zerbi to sack Poch. Clueless.
I'm a bit more sympathetic here. It does seem to add up as to why De Zerbi left. Maybe this has been going on, we don't know. I've been critical of De Zerbi. I'm critical more of the element of, because he's another one of those managers everyone hypes up and they never actually achieve anything. And we have it too much in football. You know, we hype up these, oh, look at the style of play they do, but they don't actually do anything, especially at these clubs like Brighton that have the buy cheap, sell high policy. I don't agree with that because it just doesn't work. And that's why I'm a bit critical of De Zerbi. Of course, I don't like his attitude towards officials, but that's another argument for another day. But in all fairness to him, he hasn't had an opportunity to do this at what you would call an elite club. He was at Shakhtar Donetsk for a while, and of course he left for certain circumstances, and his record there was decent, but it should be in what is a two-team league. With the better players, and with the fact that he wouldn't have to sell his players every single year, will probably be a really good test to see if he is worth the hype. Because a lot of these managers don't actually get the opportunity. So with him at the helm, you might see something different, you know, and might actually see it work. I'm critical of him and the jury is out, but I can't judge him until he's had a chance at an elite club, and that will be at Chelsea.
I think you've also got to think of is Chelsea have, you know, taken a few players and backroom staff of Brighton in very recent times. So they may, and like some of the backroom staff would have brought him in or seen what he was doing. So they could be going, you know what, we brought him in for Brighton. He will do a job at Chelsea. I know there should be different expectations for Chelsea and Brighton, but you try and bring in the best manager you can. And if they think he's got all these, like everyone talks about the vibes that Jordan will love next season, I'm sure, but it could be down to that. Now, is there anyone else do you think you'd want to bring in?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Reece, you said on the odds, Amorim. Again, I'll be honest, similar appointment. I wouldn't be against that, to be fair. I'd be quite excited about him. So I'd probably, I'd certainly get behind him at least. But again, it's a bit of a risk.
Well, yeah, this is the thing is, I'm a big fan of Amorim, as you know, and I can see Chelsea's approach here. They want to go for a young, progressive manager, right? Let's be honest, he's won the league for the second time at Sporting. Looks like he's potentially going to win another cup as well, and depending on what their result was against Porto at the weekend. He's backed it up. A lot of people can say, oh, it's a 3-team league in Portugal, but they are the third team. You know, and it's very hard to win that if you are that third team. So he's done a great job and he's been very, very good. And I like his tactics. I like the players he produces, the players he signs. I think he's been amazing. My only sticking point for him is Liverpool seem to turn away from him. And he also decided to go to West Ham and they look like they're not interested. If West Ham are,
He's got a buyout clause, doesn't he?
He does. His buyout clause is big, but I would argue if they were desperate, why didn't they go for him? But I'm not going to hold that against him because I think he has proven he can compete with the bigger boys. And again, he wouldn't have to sell his best players every year. Whereas if he, otherwise he'd have probably won another league at Sporting.
Now, Chelsea did actually say they want a young manager, but just to throw a bit of an alternative out there, Mourinho's not got a job at the moment. Go back to Chelsea. Maybe it's not Abramovich's era, but could he be someone to bring in?
I'd absolutely welcome back Mourinho again, and just run it back for pure nostalgia. But again, and this kind of touches on the points we didn't bring up earlier, but is this a disagreement over the way the club's run? And I think that's a big point. And I think I get the impression, and I could be completely wrong on this, but I get the impression the managers want more control over transfers personally, or at least if I was a manager, that's what I'd want. Potentially, this wasn't what Poch was getting, and maybe they're looking for a manager who either doesn't want to say or does want to. Do you know what I mean? One end of the spectrum. I'm not sure which it is, but a manager like Mourinho, you know, he's going to be calling out the board every other week, isn't he? So I can't see that being a logical fit. Again, someone like Simeone, elite manager, I'd love him, but I don't think it'd work out. So I think they're going to want a young manager. McKenna, by the way, was one genuinely being rumoured. I mean, Christ Almighty, what are we doing there? Like,
you can't be bringing in.
You could say the same thing about the Girona manager, who they're also linked with. Like, he got relegated with 2 other clubs. Yes, he qualified for Champions League. But that's not going to happen again. You know, you can't live off one season wonders. You know, it's the same with the Stuttgart manager. I think he is impressive, Hunis, and he got them to finish second. So you can't knock that. But he needs another season to prove he can do it again. You can't just keep going for these guys, you know, just because they've had a flash in the pan moment.
Yeah, I mean, who else is on that list at the minute as favourites? Let's just do 1 or 2 more.
I can imagine the list is pretty high.
Tuchel's on there, to be honest. Again, he's
Chelsea fans absolutely love him, by the way. So again, Bowley sacked him.
Yeah.
So clearly was it that's where all the rumours came from, by the way, about this policy over transfer involvement. And I might have got it the other way around, where they wanted the managers to have more involvement.
Well, Bowley didn't just sack him as well, but don't forget he only won the league last season on the last day, because Dortmund bottled it, and then he didn't win it this season. So
came third for Bayern.
What's the point of just putting plasters over these things? It's just silly.
Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. David Moyes, I've just seen pop up on the group chat. Jesus.
European trophy winner, you know.
Run it back. I mean, look, I think the next few days are going to be very interesting, maybe exciting for some rumours, but I just think the bottom line is it's baffling, and it's another round of the circus. Anyway, there we have it. That is all we have time for this week. Chelsea fans in particular, do you agree with me? Do you just completely disagree? Did you want Poch out all along? Let us know your thoughts. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.